Okay, so in this video, I feel like talking about Rahu Moon conjunction, Rahu, or otherwise known as the North Node. Oh, by the way, you still have this conjunction in your chart as long as they are both in the same sign. The degree or orbs of separation are irrelevant when it comes to a conjunction, contrary to popular beliefs. I view Rahu differently than many do, so my interpretations of Rahu may surprise you, but it actually works. To me, Rahu represents things that are weird and unusual, but in a bad way. The things that Rahu becomes associated with become so bad that we try to stay away from it. Rahu makes us observe things, or this obsession that people talks about that Rahu causes are only caused due to the fact that the thing that Rahu creates becomes so bad that we focus on it trying to figure out why is it so bad. And of course, Rahu represents foreign or exotic things. Foreign as in what you're not accustomed to seeing. Or it could be something that it's of a different ethnicity than you are. Whereas the moon represents our emotions, our mother, our feelings, what we care for, our emotional expression, things like that. So when you pair these two planets together, this is a wild conjunction to have in a birth chart. So let me begin. I'll start with talking about the mother. So instantaneously, this conjunction indicates that someone will have a weird, uncommon, unusual relationship with the mother. Definitely wouldn't be the typical mother and child relationship. Oftentimes, this is an indication that a person can have a bad relationship with the mother. You know why? Because Rahu is represented by a snake. So Rahu placements, or if it's conjunct a planet, will show us exactly who snakes us, who lies on our name, who lies to us, and who cheats us. So now in this case scenario, it becomes the mother that ends up doing the lying or cheating to the person that has this Rahu Moon conjunction. And when I say cheating, I'm not talking about relationship type of cheating. So what happens if someone has this conjunction, they would notice that their mother lies to them a lot. This lying that the mother does to them a lot can obviously mess up the relationship, because now trust becomes an issue. And if your mother becomes a snake towards you, then that means your mother will do a lot of illicit or bad things that will harm you. And the person that has this conjunction would obviously know it. They would realize it themselves. So what they would do is they would be like, wow, is that actually really my mother? Why is my mother like this? Why does my mother do this to me? This is where Rahu creates an obsession with trying to figure out, why does my mother act this way, especially towards me. And one of the things I notice as well, Rahu relates to mental illness. So what happens is, the issues a person will have with their mother when they have this conjunction isn't due to the person that has this conjunction. Really, it's the mother's fault. And it's the mother's fault because the mother will be the one that demonstrates a lot of unusual behavior. And those behaviors tend to be associated with mental illness traits, or those, I forgot what it's called, but traits like narcissism and stuff like that. Another example that Rahu can create a weird and unusual relationship with the mother is that the moon can represent other different types of mothers. It can represent your adopted mother, your stepmother even. So the uncommon or the weird relationship that Rahu gives in regards to the mother will come because it can give a mother that is of a different ethnicity than you. And if a mother is of a different ethnicity than you, then this can show a mother that may live apart from you, which is rarely the case, I've noticed. But the main case I would see, the main situation is the mother tends to be a stepmother as well, and that's where the whole foreign element of the mother comes about. Now let's chime away from the mother. The moon represents basically psychology, if you ask me, because it has to do a lot with our feelings and our thoughts, and these things influence the outcome of a person's actions. So now when you bring something that Rahu represents, which are unusual bad energy that's like rebellious, almost like how people describe Aquarius. Also, Rahu represents illusions, delusions, things that just come with a flash, things that just come and go. So now a person's thoughts will obviously be filled with lots of illusions, and these illusions are just typically hallucinations. So a person will have unusual or uncontrollable emotions, and these emotions will obviously affect their thoughts. So they start to have like schizophrenia in a way. They could have those traits. A person with this conjunction will often have bipolar disorder because they'll have emotions that are unusual and bad, almost like rebellious type of emotion. So their emotions won't necessarily be tamed. It's just something that can erupt out of nowhere, and that's what bipolar disorders are about. This means people with Rahu Moon conjunction will always be hot and cold with their emotions. So you don't know how they react to things. They could be crying out of nowhere, just weird emotional outbursts that they will give. I'll give a good example of this because I remembered when Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless was beefing a lot right on the show on Undisputed before Shannon Sharp's departure. Because I used to watch the show almost religiously. And I was learning a lot about how Skip Bayless would act, whether it was towards Shannon Sharp or not. Skip Bayless would always give these like clouded thoughts, almost as if the guy was delusional, right? Things that just wasn't making no sense, and a lot of people would call him out for it. Yeah, he always used to hype up a guy by the name of Baker Mayfield, even though he was playing bad at the time. So I looked it up when Skip Bayless was born. I used the sidereal chart, and I saw that if you use the Oklahoma City location, you see that, and use the 12 a.m. time, you would see that 12 a.m. when Skip Bayless was born, his moon was at the 29 degree in Capricorn, and his Rahu was in the Aquarius sign. So obviously he probably wasn't even born at 12 a.m. because he had his father in his life. So I think he most likely has a Rahu Moon conjunction. So someone can use Skip Bayless as a good example. And like I said, since this conjunction gives uncontrollable emotions, and emotions relate to our feelings, and then how we feel can relate to our thoughts, this conjunction can easily make someone have a mental illness. And the mental illness, no astrologer would know it, would know what the mental illness would be. It could be related to depression because, the moon relates to sad emotions, and Rahu can obviously trigger that a lot uncontrollably. It could be someone that's very delusional that has this conjunction. I think what this conjunction can do is make someone be a very emotional individual. A positive with this conjunction is that Rahu will bring out the caring, the sensitive feelings that the moon represents very frequently. Those emotions will come in frequent flashes. So you could say someone would be very caring with this type of conjunction, and that's what helps make them be emotional. Let me give some examples of this conjunction being in different houses. So let's say someone has a Rahu Moon conjunction in their first house. For sure, this makes someone have mental illnesses, and the mental illnesses would be related to delusions, schizophrenia, hallucinations, simply because a person won't know who they truly are. It'll always be hard for them to identify with who they truly are. So if you see someone with a Rahu Moon conjunction in the first house, they'll and you ask them, "Hey man, what do you do?" They'll come up with tons of different explanations. They'll probably name like 20 different professions. And if you ask them, "What do you want to do in life?" or something like that, they may come up with all sorts of different explanations. Obviously, this can make someone overly emotional, overly sensitive, and too caring. Too caring of how one looks, one's appearance, how they dress, their hairstyles. Basically, too caring about themselves, which isn't exactly a bad thing. Additionally, when this conjunction is in the first house, Rahu in the first house alone could make someone do lots of lying, maybe even scamming, because like I mentioned that Rahu shows who lies us and cheats us. So when it's in the first house, you as the individual becomes that cheater. You become what Rahu represents. Since the moon represents the emotions, this will make you use the emotions to lie and cheat on people. And when I say cheat on people, I'm not just referring to relationships in this case scenario. It could be just day-to-day interactions with strangers, in public or not. Especially with Ketu being in the seven house, for sure you would see someone not care about the emotions, or they won't really care about strangers that much. Maybe even their spouses, their fiancés. So this conjunction will bring out the cheating side of an individual a lot, man. If it's in the second house, then it shows a person that makes money through weird, unusual ways, typically through foreign sources, maybe from different countries. But the way that they make money will come from the help of their mother a lot. And I don't know how exactly. Maybe through inheritance, perhaps. Obviously, since the second house represents speech, this can make someone be an emotional talker. And since the second house represents face, that could show someone that possibly cries a lot. When they do cry, though, they would be the type that speaks when they cry. If it's in the third house of telecommunications, then easily this can show someone that demonstrates his or her emotions on social media a lot. Like, that's where the whole bipolar traits will be seen. So if you call or text a person that has a Rahu Moon conjunction in the third house, you would notice this person acts differently almost every day that you text them. I won't say every time, but let's say you text them 7 days out the week, you would notice that one day they're happy, next day they're sad, and it just keeps on going like that. If it's in the photos, then it definitely shows a person that has not just a weird, unusual relationship with the mother that is definitely bad or not common, but for sure it gives a person psychological issues because the photos relates to our mental state. Moon represents our emotions and feelings. Now Rahu makes that become bad, makes it not normal. So I don't know what type of mental illnesses could come out of that. There's many different types. It can make someone have a bad relationship with his or her mother when at home, perhaps. Maybe when at home, the mother becomes a completely different individual towards this person that has this Rahu Moon conjunction. Many different outcomes when it's in the photos. It can make someone not even like being at home because the mother can make the home environment be so bad. If this conjunction is in the fifth house, then if someone has a mother and their mother goes around their children, then that person's mother would have unusual or perhaps bad interactions with his or her children. In other words, your mother's grandchildren. If it's in the sixth house of injuries and diseases, then for sure that creates someone with mental illnesses. And I already explained what type of mental illnesses it would be related to. It would have a lot to do with the mind and emotions. It wouldn't be the typical common mental illnesses that individuals get. It would be sort of a rare case, a rare disease or whatever, rare mental illness. In the seventh house can cause bad marriage, obviously not throughout, or bad engagement, simply because the spouse will now take on what this conjunction means, and this can indicate a spouse that might be bipolar. So the issues in a marriage would come simply due to emotions that are unstable. One day your husband or wife is happy, then that same day they might be crying. So things like that. The eighth house, since the moon represents the mother and the eighth house represents in-laws, this can show a bad, unusual relationship with in-laws, particularly the mother-in-law. Obviously, the mother would be of a different ethnicity, and so would your in-laws. So maybe that would have a lot to do with it as well. So if you're married to someone and you have this conjunction in your chart, and you've never met your mother-in-law before, I guess you could say you dodged a bullet. In the ninth house, since the ninth house represents long distance traveling and especially for vacations, if you were to travel with someone that has a Rahu Moon conjunction in the ninth house, then it would show someone that, then it could show that person makes the entire trip or vacation become bad because they're going to be focused too much on the wrong things that don't even exist. Just like how there's a meme going around where people go to Miami, and when the girls trip happens in Miami, the girls tend to fight and hate each other. Yeah, one of those girls tend to have Rahu Moon conjunction in the ninth house. This could make someone have bad. This could make someone have bad religious beliefs as well. So let's say they're a Christian, right? They would become very emotional about Christianity, but their Christianity beliefs is far from the norm. So when they're emotional and very sensitive towards their religious beliefs, people would look at them crazy because they would be like, what religion this person really even follows? What is that? The 10th house is good because it shows a person that puts a lot of emotions into the work that they do. But they would have to deal with bosses and superiors at work that act very bipolar, especially towards them, if you have this Rahu Moon conjunction in the 10th house. Another thing too is that when a person has this Rahu Moon conjunction in the 10th house, they can be an individual when in their work environments express way too much uncontrollable emotions. So they show up to work and they're happy. Next thing you know, they're sad. It could kind of give the same similar effect if it's in the sixth house as well. So let's say you have an astrologer that has a Rahu Moon conjunction in the 10th house, especially if they're one of those that do those live consultations where they're doing it on Skype or Zoom or whatever, then they might just show up to the consultation crying. They might be late and then they're crying and they're bringing up some weird sob story, and you would be like, why is this person talking to me crying? Why aren't they professional? So that's a good example. If it's in the 11th house, then you could say this is a person that cares too much about friends, or even if it's just friends that they haven't even met in person. It could be followers on social media. They would care too much about those people, even though those people wouldn't have their best interests. So it's almost like you're caring too much about bad friends, if you get what I'm saying. In the 12 house of foreign settlement, foreign lands, different USA states, different countries, and Rahu represents foreign or exotic things, the moon represents your mother, then this put lots of emphasis on perhaps your mother being someone that was often away from you for whatever reason. And that separation would occur due to location. It's almost like a person with this conjunction in the 12th house would be often restricted or prohibited from being amongst their mother. So that can create an unusual relationship with the mother, because while most kids and teenagers may have their mother living with them in the households, this person's mother may be living in a different USA state away from them. Then, since the 12th house represents solitude, this obviously would make a person want to often hide their emotions, hide their feelings away from other people. Or even if it's other people that would see it, they would only show it in like confined places, like places where a lot of people don't have access to, maybe in your homes, stuff like that. But they would want to express their emotions when alone. Anyways, follow me on the other apps. There will be more videos to come.